Handel's Zadok the Priest introduction may change its chords, but the rhythm is pretty constant. In Philip Glass's opera Akhenaten, written 250 years later, we hear a similar pattern, but this time there is a subtle but significant difference. What's happening to Philip Glass's chugging along rhythm is a trick perfected by African musicians centuries ago. The pulse isn't changing, but as the pattern repeats and repeats, something else is changing. In musical jargon, we say that the accent is shifting. Accent is the fourth key element in rhythm, along with pulse, tempo, and the subdivision of the beat. So we'd better find out what it is and how it works.
Accent is all about which beats are important and which are not. The important ones get stressed, the others fit in meekly between.
Let me show you by using the running technique of Olympian athlete Abby Yeyetipan as an example.
Because Abby's a human and not a machine, one of her legs is ever so slightly stronger than the other, so she leads off onto her right foot. Those two steps, right, left, are the nucleus of all our rhythm. Strong, weak, strong, weak. We've accented the first beat in a pair, and the minute we repeat the motion, we have created our first groove. So fundamental to our rhythmic instinct are these accents that we even imagine them when they don't actually exist. We can't help ourselves. Listen to this pulse, which could be the ticking of a clock. Listen for long enough and you'll find yourself organizing this ticking into groups of 2 or 4. Your brain automatically gives one of the beats an emphasis by default. As it continues, you might even start to hear favourite tunes in your head ticking along to this pulse with all their imported accents. But there's no accent or emphasis in this electronically generated beat at all. I deliberately fixed it so there wasn't. Your brain has superimposed a hierarchy on the beats. It has created virtual accents.
You can, if you like, take any collection of equal beats and give 1 or 2 of them special emphasis. So if you had 8 beats to play with, you could divide them into 2 groups of 4 and put an accent on the beginning of each, like Handel does in Zadok the Priest. While Philip Glass starts off his Akhenaten prelude with the same grouping of 4 as Handel, pretty soon he starts to change where the accent falls. So it turns into this. Later still to this. And finally, this. This trick of shifting accents was the rhythmic device of choice for the so-called minimalist composers in Western classical music in the second half of the 20th century. But this had been meat and veg for African musicians for thousands of years, where they might improvise for hours on end, making subtle and incremental changes to the accents every so often. We've made a pulse, we've played around with its speed, we've subdivided it into smaller units, and we've given those units accents. Our voyage of rhythmic discovery is almost complete, but not quite. Subdividing beats and giving them accents has one important side effect that has given an extra charge to rhythm of excitement and energy over the centuries, but particularly in the 20th and 21st. This side effect is called syncopation. It's music's red light district, where rhythm gets loose, playful and mischievous.
Syncopation was a term that cropped up a lot in the 1920s during the jazz boom to describe jazz's new jerky rhythms. Though believe it or not, both the term and the phenomenon had been around for ages. Syncopation is a musical sleight of hand, whereby you sneakily shift a beat slightly ahead of or slightly behind where you expect it to be. It makes music sound more fun, basically. Instead of sounding mechanical, mathematical and machine-like, it makes things sound human and quirky. Here's a simple example from Bach. It's a short keyboard piece, an invention, and this is what it would sound like without its syncopation. But this is what Bach actually wrote.
My right hand, the upper part, is being deliberately delayed by a half beat all the way through the phrase. This, in its crudest form, is syncopation. Though it can be found in classical music, it's much more common in folk and popular music. In East European gypsy music, this type of syncopation is called estam. The accordion is half a beat behind the violin, playing catch-up, giving the music an urgent momentum. Because we develop a sense of steady rhythm as infants, you might think we'd rebel against a style of music that shifts the beat from where it really should be. But no, we seem to like the way syncopation plays around and teases our expectations. Rhythmic tricks like this excite and delight us.
Syncopation really came into its own, though, in America with the emergence of ragtime music in the late 19th century. Ragtime grew out of marching band music in around the 1890s, where the beat was steady and loud and bashed out by drums.
You can't mess about delaying beats in marching music unless you want your marchers to trip over themselves. But when musicians wanted to imitate popular marches on the piano alone, they had to make certain compromises.
So the umpa accompaniment that the tubas and the trombones took in the band had to be covered entirely by the left hand, like this.
Still, the beat is completely regular, no syncopations here. But the poor old right hand has to somehow cover not just the tune, but all the other frilly bits that the piccolos, clarinets and cornets share out amongst them. The solution was a piano style that did a bit of tune and a bit of frilly at the same time. And the only way it worked was by hopping from one to the other, dislocating or syncopating the rhythm in the process. An unintended jerkiness was thus added to the music. Everyone liked the jerkiness, the syncopation, so it stuck.
Ragtime's syncopation, just like Bach's or that of the gypsy estam, followed strict rules whereby each delay was of a predictable or identical length. But then something mysterious and magical happened. A new breed of music grew out of ragtime, and what distinguished it was that its syncopation wasn't predictable, but it became elasticated. This new breed of music was jazz, and the elastication of the syncopation, which took place over a period of about a decade, can, thanks to old recordings, be seen unfolding in front of our eyes. This type of syncopation came to be known as swing.